evening, everybody. Keith Engle here for TGI Sports Talks College Sports Huddle. How's everybody doing this evening? Welcome, everybody watching on the MPN McGrath Podcast Network. Also, everybody on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. All the groups that allow us to share. Obviously, you see our favorites, some of our favorites scrolling at the bottom. John Gonzalez at the Sports Authorities, Greg Rawlings at America's Pastime, Flo and Can at Bottom Line Sports Podcast, Let's Talk Sports, where Flo and Can do their main podcasting. Ken Krause over at Golf Bud, Sports of All Sorts. And a quick shout out to Ralph Williams at RW Media. Ralph does some great stuff out of Ocean City, Maryland. Pittsburgh Focus, National Spotlight. Happy to do the show with Ralph and Smoking Jim Frazier on Tuesdays. Is the Sports Corner from 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern every Tuesday night. I don't do it every Tuesday night. I've been on with them on Tuesday night. So, but we're happy to be on, and we're happy with all the groups that allow us to share, by the way, not just the ones you see scrolling, but our favorites are at the bottom. And we should switch it up a little bit here and there, but you guys are very important to me and very important to the show. And we're happy that you continue to let us share the show the way that you do. We're going to get into a bunch of stuff tonight. We got college football news as well as the latest in college basketball. We'll look at the new top 25. We'll look at some of the hotter teams. Let me get rid of this music here. We'll look at, hey, look at that. We'll look at some of the hotter teams in basketball as we get closer and closer to conference tournaments, which will be opening up here in the next week or so. We'll get into some of the conference tournaments. We'll take a look too at some of those dates if we have time. If not, we'll dive into those next week. Some of the smaller leagues will get started before the bigger leagues, but we'll take it from there. We'll take a little quick look at bracketology, kind of go through the leagues and see who's locked, who's almost locked, who's got work to do, and who's out. We'll look at the coach's hot seat a little bit if we can as well, and a little bit of St. John's, UConn news if we have time. But we got news in college football as well that we'll get into later. Gunnar Rivers has made a decision where he's going to school, North Carolina State, follow his father's footsteps. Jeff Monken at Army has said he's open, and Army is open to moving the Army-Navy game from its present standalone date. I think the first or second weekend, I guess it's the weekend following the conference championship games, which will allow, if they do that, they'd still get their 3-hour exclusive window. But it would allow the college football playoff to get moved up. If they eliminate college conference championship games, that would also allow another week for it to move up and maybe get the championship decided the first to second week in January rather than late January. That's some big news to keep an eye on. Kirk Cignetti's final salary from his extension has been posted. $13 million he's making, which is roughly the same amount as Kirby Smart. So some interesting stuff there as well. The NFL Combine, Mendoza will not be throwing. He prefers to do it on April 1st Pro Day where he can throw to his own receivers. You see a lot of this now. The Combine is becoming less and less relevant in my mind. I think it's still relevant for, some of the lesser tier guys or not first round draft picks. But you see more and more of these quarterbacks and wide receivers and whatnot going to their own pro days. So in any event, let's jump into some college basketball. The big news this week was Michigan beating Duke. We talked about that 1 versus 3 matchup, which was really 1 versus 2 when you talk about the early looks, top 16 seeds that the NCAA tournament put out last week. Interesting game, a great game. I think we found out Duke wins this game by just a couple of hoops. We find out the Boozer, second-generation player at Duke. His father was a great player there as well. I think we found out he's the best player in the country. Did we find out much about Duke and Michigan? I'm not so sure that we did. I think they'll both be number one seeds at the end of the day, and I think that it's a fun game to kick off. Get us kicked off towards March Madness. So I think there's a lot to be said for having those types of matchups early in the game, or early in the season, I should say, late in the season before we get into, you know what I'm talking about. Don't make me say it again. Where was I here? Basketball standings. Who's with us here? Anybody? And you guys feel free to comment, by the way. We're going to talk. Hello, my good friend. Looking dapper today. I like to put on my Miami topper. Miami fan by marriage. Basketball. The basketball team's playing well too, by the way. Going to get a bid to the tournament. So, and just hanging outside the top 25 right now. This week's top 25. Duke goes to number one. Gets 56 of the 61 first place votes. Arizona jumps over Michigan into number 3. Not a big surprise there. Michigan stays at 3. Iowa State's 4. Moving up. Houston's been struggling. Lost 3 in a row. They haven't lost 3 in a row under Kelvin Sampson. Maybe since he's been there. I'm not sure. At least not since his first couple of years there. It's been at least 3 years since they've lost 3 in a row at Houston. Maybe some signs, trouble signs there. So good to have you with us, by the way, Mark. UConn falls back a spot to 6. Interesting article I read today, I think in the Post, about a cool relationship between Rick Pitino and Danny Hurley. And this real budding rivalry between St. John's as they've gotten back into relevance, and two-time national championship coach Danny Hurley. You know, there's only 7 active coaches that have won national championships. Only 3 that have won 2, and 2 of them are in the Big East in Pitino and Hurley, and the other's Bill Self out in Kansas, obviously. So things are starting to heat up there in the Big East, but this is a down year for the Big East. Going to get 3 teams. We'll get into that in a little bit. 3 teams are probably going to the tournament. The middle of this, the bottom of this league has been bad for a while, and the middle now has fallen off badly with Creighton not playing well, Seton Hall not playing well. In any event, back to the top 25. Florida with a bullet, 5 up this week. Florida's playing some of the best basketball in the country, hitting threes, playing defense, defending champions, looking like they want to get their own back-to-back. We went 20-some years without back-to-back champions, and Florida was the last to do it before UConn. Maybe they're pissed and want it back. We'll see. Purdue's at number Purdue's at number 8, Gonzaga 9. I like this Gonzaga team. We're going to talk about them a little bit too. Not the publicity some other Gonzaga teams, few teams have gotten in the past, that I think this team might be a sleeper. Now, they got blown up by Michigan early in the season, but that's they got one other loss, and that's a conference loss. They're going to get 3 bids from that Western Collegiate Conference as well. Illinois and their great offense is at number 10 still. They stayed in the same spot. Virginia moves up 3 spots to 11. Nebraska continues to fade a little bit here as we hit the end of the Big Ten season before tournament time. They fall to number 12. Still 4 losses on the season. Michigan State up to 13. Kansas, as I mentioned, they take a big drop. 6 spots down to 14. Kansas has been all over the board this year. They've beaten number 2 Iowa State at the time. They beat Houston, but then they go and they lose to who they lose to the other night. You get to their schedule here. They beat Houston. They lose to Cincinnati at home. They lose to Cincinnati. They lose to Iowa State, not a bad loss. But they've had losses to West Virginia, who supposedly is crawling into the at-large conversation. But listen, we'll talk about this. I'm not a big fan of teams under 500, way under 500 in your conference getting at-large bids at the expense of say a Miami of Ohio, not a Miami of Florida, but Miami of Ohio, 28 straight wins now, by the way. If they were to lose their conference tournament, they're going to struggle to get in that large bid. You know, at the expense of West Virginia or somebody getting in? Come on. St. John's continues to be hot, 13 straight wins now for the Johnnies. Oh, they're not the Johnnies anymore, are they? Or they're not the Redmen anymore. Can't have these names that are offensive. Anyway, they're up to number 15. Texas Tech falls back to number 16. A little bit of a tough couple of weeks for Texas Tech. Alabama, a team to watch out for. They jumped 8 spots this week. Nate Oates, a really good coach, by the way. This team, again, not highly rated early in the season. They're starting to play their best basketball at the right time. 20-7 now. They jump 8 spots to number 17. Carolina drops back a couple spots, 21-6, still without their best player. BYU with a bad loss at home. They did move up 4 spots at 19, but they have a bad loss last night at home. Arkansas, another team to keep an eye on in this March Madness that's coming upon us, 20-7. As I said, Miami, Ohio now 28-0. Still way back at 21. Tennessee at 22. St. Louis, Louisville, and Vanderbilt all dropped 5, 3, and 6 spots apiece, but they're hanging in that top 25. Falling out was Wisconsin. Hot on the trail of these top 25 teams are Wisconsin, St. Mary's, Villanova, and Miami, as I said, all looking to crack that top 25. As we look at the most recent bracketology here, we can take a look here at the different leagues and who's in and who's out right now as we speak. We'll be looking at the multiple big leagues mostly, and we'll kind of fill it in at the end. We start with the ACC, right? And right now and I'm using we look at Lunardi's bracketology, but we also look at the Athletic as well. Athletic does a really good job of keeping these up according to their rankings. Right now, a couple teams have movement this week up to locks, where Utah State out in the Mountain West, a very underrated league, by the way. Villanova in the Big East, which I think they were a lock before. Should be in Miami, they've moved up to. Up in the mix, Belmont and West Virginia. Arizona State and South Florida have moved on to the fringe. Down in the mix, none down to the fringe, Boise State, and dropped out Baylor, George Mason, Nevada, and Oklahoma, which would leave 25 locks. 8 should be in. 23-6. That's 29 spots. Still kind of up in the air as we head towards conference tournament time. And as we look at the different conferences, we'll kind of look at where these conferences stand and teams stand as we go forward. And feel free to comment anywhere you want here about this or anything else in college basketball. And we'll talk a little college football, as I mentioned before we're done tonight. In the ACC, the locks there right now, Duke, Louisville, North Carolina, and Virginia should be in. Clemson. Clemson always finds a way to get themselves out, or at least out early in the tournament. Should be in. Clemson, Miami, North Carolina State. In the mix, Cal, SMU, Virginia Tech, and on the fringe, Stanford. Do I have any problem with any of these? I got to take a look, because this always bugs the hell out of me, right? So those teams we just talked about, Stanford, for instance, 5-9 in the conference. Seriously? Syracuse is 6-9. Well, how is Stanford on the fringe? Virginia Tech 7-8. Okay. Why not Florida State? They're 7-8, 14-14 overall. Stanford 16-11 overall. And Miami, Florida, or Miami of Ohio, rather, has got to worry about losing in their tournament and falling out when they're going to, maybe be undefeated before that. Don't like it. Don't like it. Don't like it. Don't like it. Have I said that before? NC State, by the way, is a good story. Will Wade's done a really good job there. Will Wade's going to be talked about for some jobs that are opening, maybe even LSU, where the FBI was following him all around campus before LSU finally fired him. Man, we can talk about any of these leagues more in depth if you like. Big 12, locks, Arizona, BYU, Houston, Iowa State, Kansas, Texas Tech. Should be in UCF. Johnny Dawkins saved his job out there. Oklahoma State in the mix. Oklahoma State, TCU, West Virginia. On the fringe, Arizona State, Cincinnati. Let's just look at those 5 teams, shall we? Record-wise, this just kills me. Arizona State's 5-10 in conference, 14-14 overall. On the fringe of what? Cincinnati 7-8. West Virginia 7-8. That's better than some of the records West Virginia's been in the tournament with, Big 12 records that they've been in with before. TCU is at least over 500, 18-10 overall. Oklahoma State's 5-10 as well. They're 17-11 overall. Baylor? Did I see Baylor? Please tell me I didn't see Baylor on this list. Thank you, I didn't. I mean, I don't get it. And what's going to happen when they go to 72 or 76 teams? We're just going to let more of these teams with horrible conference records in the tournament? Please stop. Locks, St. John's, UConn, Villanova, all in. There's nobody that should be in the mix, Seton Hall, and nobody on the fringe. This is just not a good league this year. St. John's are really good, 15-1 in conference. UConn sits right behind them, a half game back, 15-2. St. John's holds the overall edge, head-to-head edge, I should say, so far. These two teams are both ranked 6 for the UConn, 15 for St. John's. Villanova's played really well under Kevin Willard in his first season, 21-6, bouncing back, 12-4 in conference. Seton Hall, 9-8, 19-9. Now, I would make an argument, and the bottom of the league in the middle of the Big East really hurts Seton Hall's at-large chances, I think, because, you know, we got a team that's 9-8 in the Big East, and we got teams that are 5-10 in the Big 12 who are in the mix, but a 9-8 team that's got 19 wins and Seton Hall is not. And that's because Creighton has been a disappointment. Xavier's been a huge disappointment. Providence for a third year in a row, I think, a big disappointment. Marquette and Shaka Smart went from being one of the elite teams in the Big East and in the country the last 3 years to the bottom of the Big East, 10-18 overall. That hurts these other teams. Hey, Donna, how are you today? Good to have you with us. Anybody can feel free to comment on any of these comments I'll make. Big East, those 3 teams are the teams that should be in. Seton Hall should be. I'm glad to see they're in the mix. We'll see how that goes. Big Ten. Now, this league is deeper, and we're going to see, I think, that there are not a lot of teams, if any, with losing records that are in the mix, let's say, or on the fringe. The locks are Illinois, Michigan State, Nebraska, Purdue. Should be in Iowa. Iowa's had some big wins over some of the better teams in this conference, including Nebraska, who helped them continue their slide. I believe they beat Purdue a couple of weeks ago. In the mix, Indiana, Ohio State, UCLA, USC. Let's see how that stacks up. I think this is the deepest league in the country, by the way. Obviously, no problem with the top of this league. Then we get down to Wisconsin. Where was Wisconsin on the fringe? Wisconsin should be in, and they should be in without a doubt. UCLA should be in my mind. 11-6, 19-9. Had a tough couple of weeks. Right now, we're talking some basketball, Donna, but we'll get into some football here in a little bit. Right now, we're looking at the locks for the basketball, locks and bubble teams for the NCAA. Iowa 9-7, Ohio State 9-7, but you get it in Indiana, USC's 8-9, 7-10. I mean, again, why can't I look to the mid majors and the teams that finish second or win the regular season championship and lose in their conference tournament, rather than looking at a 7-10, 18-10 overall USC team? It just bugs me if you can't tell. We do have some decent college football news to chat about when we get to that point too. The SEC, Alabama, Arkansas, Florida, Tennessee, and Vanderbilt, all locks. Should be in Kentucky. Mark Pope got a big fine the other day, by the way, for some comments he made after a game. In the mix, Auburn. Your reputation, man. That's it. Georgia, Missouri, Texas, Texas A&M. On the fringe, nobody. As we look at this conference, and then I'm going to give you some mid-majors that ought to be considered once we get through with these major or multi-bid conferences, right? So I've got no problem here talking about Texas A&M, 9-5, 19-8. Missouri, 9-6, 19-9. Kentucky, 9-6, 18-10. Even Texas, 18-6 or 8-6, 17-10 overall. Vanderbilt, 8-6. I'm okay. Vanderbilt's had a really good year. Struggled recently. Auburn at 6-9, 15-13 overall. Come on, stop. I mean, Oklahoma just fell off the bubble. They're 14-14, 4-11 in the conference. Can't be looking at these. You can't be looking at these conferences the way that we always have, because there's good mid majors out there. So that covers all the majors. You're going to get 3 bids out of. These are some other teams that are likely going to be in, rather. So this is the rest. Locks, Gonzaga, Utah State. Gonzaga out of the Western, Utah State out of the Mountain West. Should be in St. Louis out of the Atlantic 10. In the mix, Belmont, Miami of Ohio. In the mix, 28-0. New Mexico, St. Mary's, I think, should be in. San Diego State, Santa Clara should be in. I think the Western gets 3 bids. VCU, to me, that's a bubble team. Boise State, Liberty, and South Florida on the fringe. Let's look at Lenard. I want to look at Lenardi's first in and such. Number 1 overall seed for them, Duke, not a problem. The number 1 seeds, Duke, Michigan, Arizona, and UConn. No big surprises there from Lenardi. Last on the bubble. I'm going to go back to the conferences and tell you some of the teams that ought to get considered instead of some of these teams on the bubble or, on the fringe, if you will. The last 4 byes, so that they would not play on that first 4 play-in tournament, if you will. Texas, UCLA, Auburn, Indiana. Indiana's the only one I'm going to have a gripe with, right? And Auburn, I'm sorry. Auburn and Indiana I got big gripes with. Missouri, last 4 in, so they got to play in the first 4. Missouri, Santa Clara, TCU, no. New Mexico, maybe. First 4 out, Ohio State, USC, Cal, San Diego State. The next 4 out, VCU, Virginia Tech, Seton Hall. Seton Hall should be in. Seton Hall should be in this tournament if any of these other teams I just mentioned on the bubble are in. I don't get it. Lenardi has the SEC with 11 bids, Big Ten with 9, ACC with 8, Big 12 with, I'm sorry, I got that mixed up. Big Ten with 9, ACC with 8, Big 12 with 8. I'm a little surprised at the ACC with 8. It's not the top of the league is really good. Duke and John Shire done a great job. Hello, Paul Spada. How are you? Where are we here? And now they've got the West Coast. He's got the West Coast Conference down to 2, and the Big East with 3. So it's going to be a race between Santa Clara and St. Mary's, I would say, to see who's going to get that bid. I think all 3 of them should be in. And now we'll take a look at some of these teams in the smaller conferences where somebody, the mid-majors, not the tiny, tiny ones. I'll give you teams that are going to get left out if they lose in their conference tournament that they shouldn't to some of these teams. How about Navy? Navy's won 11 games in a row. Is that right? Navy's won 11 games in a row. And should be considered for a spot in this tournament. And I don't know how they're not. That's one team to take a look at. I mean, how's South Florida? 11-3, 19-8. This American Conference is not the best and not the worst conference in the country. South Florida, Tulsa, all should all be considered for potential at-large bids. In the A10, I mean, St. Louis has had a great season, 25-3, 13-2 overall. The league is having a bit of a down year overall, but I mean, the bottom of that conference is really bad. And, some teams that have done well in the past, and Loyola of Chicago, St. Bonaventure, Rhode Island, struggling mightily, and that hurts the overall ranking of the conference. But I just don't understand it. But St. Louis shouldn't go to their conference tournament and be left out. And listen, some of these teams in the ACC, again, I don't get. Big Sky, I don't have any gripes here. High Point, 14-1 overall, 26-4. This is the Big South. High Point has been a very good basketball team at the mid-major level for like 3 years now. They also have one of the longer win streaks in the country at 10. Lose in their conference tournament, they'll be out. Why can't we take a High Point when they lose in their conference tournament and not take a 5-19 from the Big Southeast or the Southeast Conference or Big 12 or wherever? I'm not going to argue that conference. I won't argue that conference. Liberty, 23-4, 15-1 in conference. They lose, they'd be out. We'll talk about Siena. Siena, by the way, locally, we'll talk about that in a second. Mid-American Conference, we talked about Miami. Akron's also been very good, 14-1, 23-5. So why can't we consider one of those teams? Let's just say they face off in the conference tournament. Akron's going to get in when they beat Miami, and Miami's going to stay home? Come on. Belmont, we talked about. They're on the bubble. But if they lost, well, they'd be in. He's talked about them being on the bubble if they were to lose. So Belmont's kind of in the same spot as Miami, let's say. Utah State and the Mountain West. New Mexico was in. I'm okay with New Mexico being in. I think San Diego State, New Mexico should be getting in before some of the teams I just talked about. Who did I talk about were the last bunch in by Lenardi here? Where are they? Definitely in over Auburn, Indiana, TCU. New Mexico should be in. I think he's got them in. So San Diego State, though, Seton Hall have to be in this tournament. I'm okay that Ohio State, USC, VCU, not in. West Virginia, not in. That's probably all I got. Navy, as I said, 15-1 in their conference, 23-6. They lose, they'll be out. A lot of conferences in college basketball, right? A little different than Stephen F. Austin, by the way. 18-2, 25-4. McNeese State right with them. McNeese made some noise in the conference, if you remember, or the tournament last year, if you remember, with Will Wade rebuilding his reputation and getting that North Carolina State job, where he might be one and done. And that's probably all I got. Locally, Siena, I mentioned. Where are they? Merrimack leads the Metro Atlantic 16-2. I mentioned Siena, and I mentioned Albany State and Syracuse because there's local here in upstate New York. And Siena's 12-6, 19-10 overall. They had a great chance to beat Merrimack the other day, last weekend. Played with them very well, but lost a tough game on the road. Siena's got a real chance to win that MAC tournament that I think is being played in Buffalo this year. I'm not really sure. We'll be checking on the conference tournaments here pretty soon. Albany State, on the other hand, not doing very well. I think Coach Killings finally will lose his job here. He's 6-7 in the league, 10-18 overall. A little surprised he stayed this long. He's had some issues with putting his hands on a player and things like this as well. So, hello, AC. How are you, my friend? Good to have you with us. You could have watched the State of the Union last night with AC, by the way. I didn't see much except AC and his sunglasses. He could have been playing poker. What was I going to cover here next? I wanted to see the conference tournaments. Let me take a quick look at conference tournament schedules. NCAA basketball conference tournaments. Hold on. Tracking all the basketball conference tournaments. I agree. So we'll get started, by the way. March 7th, the American East will start their games. They're going to be played at the higher seeds. The American will play on the 11th in Birmingham. The A10 is playing in Pittsburgh. They start on the 11th. The ACC starts on the 10th, playing in Charlotte, not Madison Square Garden. Don't belong in Madison Square Garden. By the way, I didn't mention Syracuse, off to a horrible start this year. Jayhawks with a great win against Houston the other day after a tough loss to Iowa State. But a nice win over Houston last night or the night before. The A-Sun starts on March 4th. That's an earlier one. That's next weekend, or early next week, rather. That'll be played in Jacksonville. The Big 12, March 10th, will be played in Kansas City. Big East will be in Madison Square Garden, March 11th. Big Sky will be played in Boise, March 7th. They start. Big South is March 4th in Johnson City. The Big Ten's playing in Chicago this year. They start on March 10th. Lots of time for us to talk about these games, these tournaments. Some of them will be starting by the time we do a show next week, I would say. Obviously, the Horizon League starts on 2nd. Historically, the one of the earliest to start. They play at the higher seed. The Ivy League's playing in Ithaca this year, by the way. Ithaca, New Jersey, that is. They only play semifinals and championship games. The MAC, which is the league that Merrimack and Siena would play in that I was just talking about. They're playing in Atlantic City this year, not Buffalo. Got to move that back to Albany, man. That was a great event in Albany, and I swear to God, I watched the crowds in Atlantic City. I see the crowds in Buffalo. They aren't there. Used to pack the MVP Center here, 13,000 people. The MAC tournament for Miami will play and will be in Cleveland, Miami of Ohio. The MEAC, we're done with that. I think we've covered all the ones we want to cover for now. West Coast March 5th. Actually, Gonzaga will be playing by the time we play next week. So we'll dive into all these tournaments come next week. AC, it was exciting watching you watch the State of the Union. It was riveting, the TV. Not that this is much better, AC. I'm just saying. I had you on my iPad the whole time. Well, most of the time, not all the time. While I watched myself. Very great. A nice win for the Jayhawks. Listen, Bill Self's a great coach. Hopefully his health's okay. He had a little health scare again. Had several health scares the last several years. But the Jayhawks been very up and down. 7 losses. Some not so good losses. But this team is well coached, and come tournament time, they'll need to be reckoned with for sure. I agree 100%. Again, whether you like whether you like the man, hate the man, I don't really care. I mean, listen, I am what I am politically. I'm not a Trumpster. That was a well-given speech last night. Went a long time, but I think he did a lot of good things, and I'm not going to dive too deep into it. I found I had a bad review, I'll have to tell you, from somebody on TGI Sports Talk. And I've got to believe it's because of political stuff, because I went and looked at their profile, and I can tell that they're on the opposite end of the spectrum from me. And if that's why you don't like my show, then I get it. But please don't say, I don't even know where to start. I know the show isn't, riveting and isn't much watch TV like, like the idiots at ESPN. But at least say something. Don't leave a shitty, excuse my French, review, but don't even say why. I don't know where to start. I'm sure you walked in on one of my shows where I was making some political commentary and you didn't like it. So say that. Right now, Nebraska would be looking. This has been one of the big surprises this year has been Nebraska. By the way, I put my future bet in on Gonzaga. Was where my future bet is. I really wanted to bet St. John's, and I still might put another wager in, but on DraftKings, I couldn't. You can't bet teams in New York, so I'm going to have to go to the sports book, where I'm not sure I can even do it there. I don't know. AC, you might know. I'm thinking I can go to Rivers Casino and make a futures bet on St. John's, but I was in the comfort of my home. So I made a future bet on Gonzaga plus, what were they? I want to say plus 8,000. But that seems too high. Let's find out. And we do have some football news to cover today, too, with the Chris Hefgrave always asks me, what's the news on Gunnar Rivers? Gunnar Rivers, Philip Rivers' son, has decided to follow his dad to, excuse me, North Carolina State. Well, I can't get in Gonzaga plus 4,000. Sorry, that sounded like too much. So we'll make $4,000 if that were to hit. I just like Gonzaga's. I like the Few. I love Mark Few, and I think Mark Few is going to win a championship, and he's going to do it in a year he wasn't expected to do it. I got a good feeling this year because I think all these top teams are beatable. I think Duke's the best team in the country. Arizona showed they're beatable. They can't shoot from the outside. Michigan, you saw some holes in their game against Duke. UConn's got some holes. Houston, we saw the other night, had some trouble shooting the ball from time to time. Didn't have any answer for Kansas's defense the other night. But anyway, back to Nebraska. They're going to match. If you're talking about in the NCAA tournament, I don't like this team. This is a team I like to be one and done, quite frankly. Let's see. Where's Lenardi have them matching up in the tournament right now? See if I can find them quick. Not always the easiest thing to do. I wonder if, hold on, will this work? Nebraska. There they are. Right now, he's got them matching up against at number. They got him a 3 seed and 14 against number 14 Navy. That'd be an upset alert for me right there, and that would take place in Oklahoma City. More travel for Navy, but still. Remember, they play in these bubbles too, so it's hard to keep track of these. So. My show's awesome. Thank you, AC. The future entertainment, interacting with the audience while doing a show on a specific type takes talent. Well, thank you for the kind words. Apparently this woman didn't like something, but couldn't put her finger on it. Or there were so many things wrong with this show, she couldn't decide where to start, actually. Again, I looked at her profile, and I'm pretty sure it's because of politics. So that's fine. I'm not everybody's cup of tea. Not my show specifically, but the format of your show. So my show's not the future of entertainment. Jesus, here all this time I thought it was. The McGrath Podcast Network is with us tonight. Duke's lost 2 as well, so they're not unscathed. No, I'm not saying they are, but they're playing really good basketball. I'm going to assume this is Brian, diehard Michigan fan. Listen, Michigan's a really good team. Dusty May's one of the best coaches in the country, but John Shire, too, has turned himself into one of the best coaches in the country and done a great job of keeping this Duke team on the right trajectory after taking over for Coach K several years ago now. They had a little bit of a slip early on, but it didn't last long, and they rebounded, and Duke is really good. And I just don't think these top teams, I'm not in love with any of these teams. So when I say that, I don't think Duke's won a national championship, Brian. And when I get into this mode, I look for teams with some value, right? So I want to bet, when I bet a future, and it's usually before the conference tournaments start, I'll find a team that I think has really good value. I like Gonzaga's value. I know, and Michigan, by the way, blew them out, I know, by about 30 early in the year, but that was like eons ago in the world of college basketball. Doesn't mean a thing to me. If I'm going to watch out for teams, I'm watching out for St. John's. I'd watch out for UConn, too. So teams outside the top 4 teams, I think Iowa State had, all these teams have, nobody's that great in my mind. And again, Duke's other loss, by the way, was to who? Michigan, I think, lost to Wisconsin, if I'm not mistaken. Nearly lost to Penn State the same, just a few days before that. And Duke's only other loss, by the way, I'm sorry, 2 losses, by the way, Texas Tech and one to North Carolina. North Carolina at full strength at that time. Listen, I'm not saying they're going to beat them. I'm not saying if Michigan played Duke again that they'd win. I think you saw a really good basketball game here the other day between these two teams. And I believe that was on a neutral court, if I'm not mistaken. Or was it at Duke? I don't know. Do you remember? It was the Edward Jones Capital Showcase. I think it was on a neutral court. That doesn't tell me a lot. I'm pretty sure this was played on a neutral site. They usually have one of these marquee games or two this time of year, just before conference tournaments, and it's played on a neutral site. And I want to say this one is. I'm just before my time, and I'm old, so I'm not going to be alive when this format really takes off. So this is what AC's telling you guys. I'm on my way out. I'm kidding. I'm only kidding. Listen, I watched you last night. I felt like I was at my back at the Eric Church contest concert is what I thought. Seeing you sitting there in your sunglasses, chilling out. I thought it was absolutely at a neutral site. Thank you, Brian. Florida Texas games is great so far and very physical. Let's check out the scoreboard since AC brought that up. We'll be doing that during the next few weeks. Obviously, when you have conference tournaments, we'll keep you abreast of the scores. It's 2-2 so far from all I have. Maybe you might be ahead of where I am. Let me refresh this. I'm sorry. I should have refreshed. 36-36 with a minute 20 left and a half. Listen, Florida's played great basketball recently, as I mentioned earlier in the show. Got off to a really poor start this year, but their defense is good. Their perimeter shooting's good. They're the defending champions as well. And remember, they were the last team to win back-to-back. Again, nothing to do. Different coach, different players, different everything, because it was 20-some years ago. Before UConn went back-to-back, Florida was last to do it. And Todd Golden's a really good coach. Really good matchup early on with Florida and Texas as well. St. John's and UConn, by the way. UConn's winning 41-26. This has really turned into a neat little rivalry. These schools are about 140 miles apart. Where they play their home games is about 120 miles apart. Rick Pitino and Danny Hurley have a little bit of a cool relationship by all accounts. And they're in a very elite company. As I said earlier, there's only 7 active coaches in NCAA basketball that have won national championships. There's only 3 that have won 2. Pitino and Hurley are 2 of those, Bill Self being the other. Nebraska, who's AC mentioned earlier, is also winning right now over Maryland, 31-27. That's the top 25 scores we have to report. Vanderbilt's up by 10 over Georgia at this point as well. Other matchups tonight: Gonzaga gets Portland, Alabama gets Mississippi State, and Arkansas, Texas A&M, a nice game later on too at 9:00. I'll probably catch the end of that one after we get through here and do a few things. Florida's the SEC is a little more physical than people think it is. And there's some teams that'll mix it up. Texas A&M's a team that'll mix it up. Texas Tech will. I'm sorry, that's the Big 12 team. Texas, Florida, Alabama will mix it up. They're playing tonight too. Mississippi State. Alabama's on a roll too, playing some pretty good basketball. We did teams with the best hot streaks, if you will, in the country. Miami with 28 in a row. Miami's end up getting I could see Miami getting screwed here, and it's really going to piss me off when they do. St. John's with 13 in a row before this UConn game tonight. Virginia with 9 in a row. Austin Peay with 10. High Point with 10. Merrimack, who I mentioned earlier, 8. Navy, 11. St. Mary's, 6. Gonzaga, 5. Florida with 7. Colorado State with 6 in a row. Teams all playing well as we head towards conference tournament time. A little other news too in college basketball. Tony Bennett, former Virginia head coach, they'd had a couple down years here since Bennett stepped away. Tony Bennett's going to go to work for the Lakers as a draft consultant, so it's kind of interesting news. We can go back to any college basketball at any point in time. I want to get a little bit of football news, and I mentioned Gunnar Rivers going to North Carolina State. A little surprising. Miami was after him. Florida was after him. Georgia was mentioned. Probably 10 or 12 of the top teams in the country. North Carolina State's where his dad went to school, and for now at least, and with the portal and whatnot, we don't know how long that will last. He's going to go to his dad's alma mater. His dad, again, Phillip Rivers, former very good, if not great, NFL quarterback. I mentioned Jeff Montkin at Army has talked extensively now the last week or so about moving the Army-Navy game. Nothing heard from Navy about this, by the way. Moving that game from its standalone game after conference championships to a Thanksgiving weekend. So sometime between Thanksgiving and that Saturday, I guess it would have to be. They'd have to work out with the NCAA where they could fit in a 3 or 4 hour exclusive window for Army-Navy. I think they can make that work among those 3 days. College football, remember, is played that Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Played almost every Thursday, Friday, Saturday. What am I talking about? I think they can make that work, and it would work to a lot of that. I've always wanted them to keep their exclusive stage. I think it's important, but I think if you can do this and make it work so they have some kind of exclusivity, it works for everybody, because Army Navy right now gets played they're both in the same league, right? They're both in the American Conference. It gets played after the American Conference season's over. I mean, theoretically, Army and Navy could make the conference championship game. I know it's unlikely. Could happen. They've had some pretty good football teams here the last several years. If they were to play that, they'd end up playing again the next week in the Army Navy game. Makes no sense. Now, they could move it up, and it would solve that problem. It being awkward, them playing after the championship game has been played in their own conference. It could be part of the regular season schedule, if need be. They don't play divisions, so not everybody plays everybody every year. I mean, Army Navy will play everybody each year. It doesn't always have to be a conference game. We see this in the ACC. We've seen the SEC where they play games against one another, but they're not conference games. It would also benefit the fact that they want the NCAA. Look, we're going to have expansion here soon. Already with 12 teams in there. We have 12. Yeah, 12. We're going to what? January 24th was a championship game, something like that. They want to be able to finish this up. Ideally, they'd finish this season up on January 1st, New Year's Day. Probably not going to happen. But by moving that game back, and if you were to play games in week 0, real games, right? Move the season up a week, basically. Make week 0 week 1. That gains you 2 weeks. You could eliminate conference championship games. I don't think they're necessary now, other than making money. And you'd also eliminate some of the issues that have happened with selections. And you'd be able to get this conference, the college football playoff started 2 to 3 weeks earlier and finish up January 1st or sometime between January 1st and January 8th. Get out of the way of the NFL playoffs a little bit. You know, don't get lost in the shuffle. I'm not that it was lost in the shuffle. It's still a big event. But it would behoove them to get done earlier than they are now, for sure. Who is this? Do I know who this is on here now? Who is that? Is that you, Paul? I got guys jumping around. I got guys trying to catfish me all the time. That probably sucks, right? That probably sounded horrible. I thought so. Good to have you back, Paul. We'll be talking more about the YouTube. We're not going to make any changes just yet, but some conversations have been had to put some focus on our YouTube distribution and focus. And we hope to make that happen sometime in the next several months. We'll see how that goes. You like YouTube here and there? Well, good, because we're going to make, as I said, a huge effort to kind of move this forward as well. I mentioned Curt Cignetti. $3.2 million is where his final new salary ended up with his extension. Pretty close. Him and Kirby Smart kind of head and head there. Some other big news. I think we talked about this last week with Joey Aguiar's appeal or lawsuit, if you will, against the NCAA to get a 6-year of eligibility was shot down. We know that Trinidad Chambliss is coming back for a 6 year. And assume the NCAA isn't shopping for a judge that will be more friendly to them, similar to what Trinidad did. And Chandler Morris from Virginia is appealing and potentially suing the NCAA to get a 7th year of eligibility. Mendoza's not throwing at the combine. Not surprised. I think the combine's getting to be a bit, overrated, if you will. We're going to wrap the show. We're going to start trying to do the show in an hour, by the way, to conform a little bit better with some of the other things that we do. on the McGrath Podcast Network. So we're going to be wrapping this up. Maybe in college football time, we're not going to be able to do it. Maybe not. I don't know. I know we're going to be repeated on, what are we repeating? It's tomorrow night. Brian, where's my, I lost my little note. I got your email though. This game will repeated Thursday night at 9 p.m. So I know it's the last show of the night, so we can go long if we have to, but, the combine is already. Nobody goes. Nobody throws. The quarterbacks don't go. The wide receivers don't go. They want to do their own pro days. I mean, at least Fernando Mendoza was very open. He said, he wanted to be, he says, he wants to be able to throw to his own receivers so he can get them some spotlight. Him being able to throw to his own receivers is also a step up for him as well. You missed us on Sunday? We did pretty much a watch along for the Olympic hockey, so that's what it was. Our show. We talked about a few other topics in between periods, but we watched the last couple hours of the hockey together and had a lot of fun. We'll have a lot coming on too. Next week we'll be talking more about the NCAA tournament, and we'll be in the middle of or getting ready to start. All the conference tournaments, because we're only a little more than 2 weeks away from Selection Sunday, which I believe is on the 14th. Let me check my calendar here. Where's my calendar? Why don't I have a calendar here? Isn't that ridiculous? Used to always have a calendar there. There we go. Actually, where are we? Oh, good. I'm focusing now. I used to do that a lot at work when I didn't want people to bother me. I'd go on focus. No, I got to believe it's the 15th would be the Selection Sunday for the NCAA. So what else? What do you guys want to cover tonight? Good show. We got a good crowd right now. If we got some comments, we'll be happy to stick around for a little bit yet. Robert Butler's out there. AC Night. AC, how are you, buddy? I told you, go back and watch AC watching the State of the Union last night. It was kind of interesting, wasn't it? Oh, college baseball, by the way, got underway this week as well. UCLA ranked number 1 in the country. Not a lot of surprises there early on. They played 6 or 7, 5 games, depending on the school. We'll talk a little bit of college baseball as we go along this spring as well. Right through we'll go right through the college basketball tournament at March Madness, obviously, through the draft, because the draft is a topic for college sports, because it's college players that are getting drafted. So we'll keep an eye on that, and then we'll decide when we'll take our little hiatus that we like to take for a couple of months or 6 weeks, whatever, in the summer on the Wednesday night show. And Brian, I'll talk to you about that, about how we want to fill it in. Usually I put on one of my other shows to go with it. Am I doing baseball with JB? JB from Back It Up Binge Podcast? Not specifically. You're going to be making some videos soon? What are you going to do, AC? Tell me. Definitely tag me in them, and we'll make sure. And let me know when you do it, just in case, because I know I have some settings, especially on TGI Sports Talk, where, and maybe even my personal page, I've got to go in and say, okay, share to your profile. So I like it when guys let me know in case I don't get notified. I think I do on my personal page, but I don't on TGI Sports Talk. So. But guys, and make sure you check out all the great shows on the McGrath Podcast Network. Brian's doing a great job, working hard. We'll have some new promos coming up. I'm working along with Chris Fgrave to get some new intros done for these shows. I think we'll start with the Jack and Keith Weekend Playbook. But we tested some stuff today, and it came through, so I've got to fix up the scripts for the openings. We'll have some cool new openings, but check out McGrath Podcast Network. Lots of stuff. Brian's worked very hard putting together a schedule, adding new shows, and things are going well. A few political jokes. Nice. Yeah, okay. Message me later. That's cool. What else we got here? Chris is great. Chris got a great voice, but Chris does some great voices. We got to figure out the right one for this, right? We'll have him do several versions. Maybe I'll test them out with you guys, and we'll see which one we want to keep. But I'm trying to step up my game a little bit. Brian puts together some great intros to the shows. I don't know that I'll never do it at the level that he does it, but I want to step up my game, do a little bit something different, even if it's just, cool little. Brian's great too, without a doubt. Brian is the best, man. When Mac passed, we had a bit of a void, right? I mean, Sonia stepped up and did what she could, but she had to go, get back to school and whatnot. None of us, quite frankly, wanted to step into the leadership role, and Brian did it. And God bless him for doing it. I wasn't willing to do it. I just retired. I wasn't going to commit myself to that big an endeavor. Brian's done a great job, though, and kudos to him, and couldn't thank him more. We have a lot of fun and some great shows too, guys, and some more shows coming. So make sure you check that out. Anyway, we're going to wrap her up tonight, I think. Well, maybe not. Sure. I think there's 14 teams. I'm going to tell you the teams I think can win. I think there's more than 14 teams. Because if I go down the, I seem to have lost my, where's my, oh, well, it doesn't matter. We just go from here. Let me just go down the rankings, right? I'll tell you the team. Can Duke win? Absolutely. Can Arizona win? Absolutely. Michigan? Yes. Ohio State, Iowa State? Yes. Houston? Yes. I'm not so sure after this past week, but I think they can right the ship. UConn? Absolutely. Florida? 100% with a bullet right now. Purdue? Historically, they've shown they can't win the big game. I mean, Matt Painter got his team to the final a couple years ago, but ran into a buzzsaw in UConn. Gonzaga, yes. I made a bet. Illinois, yes. Maybe the best offense in the country. Virginia, yes. Nebraska, no. I got 11. Michigan State, yes. 13. That's 12. Kansas, that's 13. St. John's, that's 14. Texas Tech and Alabama, 16. I'm going to stop there. I don't think North Carolina, BYU, Arkansas, Miami, Tennessee, St. Louis, Louisville, or Vanderbilt have a chance. If I was going to pick one of those teams to slide in and give you 17 teams, it'd be Arkansas. So, yeah, this is a wide open tournament, Paul. Thank you. Without you guys, though, this network would not have survived. Well, I consider the content we provided to be just part of it. Brian, you taking over what you did has been wonderful. So that's wholeheartedly heartfelt, I should say. They are in it. You know what? And there's years where Gonzaga is, a top seed. They're not going to be a top seed this year. They're probably going to be a 3, maybe even a 4 seed. Not going to be as much expected from them. People are going to look back to the horrible loss they had to Michigan. What was that, back in October or November? When they lose to Michigan? Maybe it's not that far back. It feels like it's that far back. Well, I guess it's not that far back. Oh, you're not going to give me the dates of these games? Come on. They do have a bad loss to Portland, too, by the way. But they lost by 40. I said 30-something. 40 to Michigan. That's probably back in, I'm going to guess, December, if not November. But this is a team, Mark Few is one of the, even though we had a stretch where Gonzaga was in the Sweet 16 for God knows, I don't know how many years. Mark Few's still one of the more underrated coaches in the country in my mind. He's going to win a national championship. I'm certain of it. He's been in position to do it with much better teams than he has here now. And I really feel like this is a team that could sneak up on people in the tournament. This is why I took them as my flyer in this NCAA tournament. So hopefully they put a few shillings in my pocket and we'll be happy about it. But it's wide open. I mean, I can find reasons all those teams I mentioned won't win. Nope. Never cut out Gonzaga. Mark Few again. Highly underrated. Highly. And you know what? Somebody could come out of nowhere. I mean, if you wanted to find a team to come out of nowhere, who would you pick? Let me go to the bracket real quick. Now I lost that too. Here we go. I mean, who knows? Miami, Ohio. How do we know they're not a team that can reach a Final Four? They're 28-0. I know they play in the MAC. I get it, but nobody will play. Yeah, I know you're kidding. Nobody will play them non-conference, right? They can't schedule outside, so they're going to get penalized. And again, if they were to go into a tournament undefeated or even with one loss and not get an at-large bid because they lost the conference final or something, it'd be a freaking criminal. It'd be criminal to have that type of year when nobody will play them. So I don't know how good they are. But that's a team that might make a run. St. John's. Yeah, I guess I got to go up. If I'm going to go out, I said 17 teams that got a chance to win. That's already a huge number, by the way. And if I was going to go outside of that and go way, way outside the box, I guess Arkansas would be my team since I didn't put them in there. Villanova. Kevin Willard's done a great job in year one. And the Big East is I think these three teams in the Big East are going to get underrated, undervalued because the rest of the league has been so bad this year. The bottom has been horrible. And the middle of this league, which was really good. Again, Marquette's at the bottom of this league. They're one of the best teams in the country for the past 3 or 4 years under Shaka Smart. Creighton's down. Butler's down. Providence has been down for a while. We know Georgetown's problems. I really think the Big East and Syracuse would benefit from them coming back. And I know there's issues with that happening. I mean, we do see teams that play in football in one conference, basketball in another. Look at Navy, for instance. Syracuse is lost in the ACC. It's sad what's happened there. Adrian Autry's going to lose his job. They're irrelevant on a national stage. They're irrelevant in the ACC. This is not a good basketball team, and it hasn't been for a while. Austin Peay's got a nice record. I don't see Austin Peay doing much damage, but again, I mean, somebody who could surprise the first weekend, absolutely. Austin Peay's one of those teams. High Point is one of those teams. I don't see them going deep into the tournament, though. If we're going to look for that St. Peter's type team, I guess Austin Peay would fit the criteria, as would High Point. Stephen F. Austin, if they get in, or a team, and they've done it in the past when Bruce Underwood. Remember, Bruce Underwood was a coach of Stephen F. Austin. I think he got him to an Elite Eight before he got the job at Oklahoma State, and then a year turned around and went to Illinois. Vanderbilt, team to keep an eye on. BYU, if BYU got healthy, BYU could go deeper than they've ever gone in this tournament. And remember, this is a team that's had some great players in in Danny Ainge and Jimmer Fredette. That team Jimmer Fredette was on was a great team. Couldn't get out of the first weekend. St. Louis, maybe. A-10's way down this year. But St. Louis has had a good record. They've stumbled here a little bit the last few weeks. I like to find teams that are playing good basketball. That's one. Listen, Austin, you mentioned two teams that have got two of the best winning streaks right now in the country. And if they continue through the regular season and through their tournament, these 10-game winning streaks, I think they both have 10-game winning streaks right now, are going to turn into, 15 and 16-game winning streaks. Teams get hot. Matchups mean everything, though. And before you laugh about these saying all these teams have a chance, they still have kids that are there. Even with the transfer portals, they have more experienced kids. And I talk about it all the time. Teams with experienced backcourts do really well in the NCAA tournament. And that's where you see some of the mid-majors. You watch the teams that have experience in a backcourt, can handle the basketball, can handle the pressure, handle late game situations. That's where you start to find some upsets. I did mention St. John's, but they're not really going to be they're not going to be a St. Louis or a Austin P type underdog. I mean, right now they're up to 14th in the country. They win the Big East. They're likely going to be, I would say, a 2 seed, 3 at the worst, and they'll be ranked in the top 10, most likely. Again, they're struggling tonight with. Let's refresh here. Still down 16 now. Early in the second half. 15 minutes left in the game. It's not early. Florida's up by 3 over Texas. So much for an hour, by the way. This show's always probably going to be an hour and a half, Brian. Because we get a late arriving crowd here all the time. Texas is down by 3 over Florida, or against Florida. Nebraska's up by 5, still over Maryland. And Vanderbilt just got a 7-point lead over Georgia. Georgia on the bubble. Vanderbilt's probably in the tournament now. I would say they're a lock. Georgia's still a bit on the bubble. This would put them under 500 in the SEC. And you know how I feel about these teams that are under 500. I mentioned Liberty earlier. Another team that could surprise. You did make provisions for that. It's been an hour and a half historically during football season anyway, because we just cover a lot of stuff. Basketball season has been a little bit shorter, but we go anywhere from 50 minutes to an hour and a half during basketball season. And as we get following some games, sometimes we stay a little bit later. So until we have so many shows that we're scheduling after 9 o'clock, we don't have a problem as far as the length goes. Unless Robert comes on and wants to go on live again at 8 o'clock. Some other good games tonight coming up, though. Arkansas, Texas A&M is one that I'm very interested in. What else did we miss? Did I miss out on anything here? I'm so good at college sports, Keith. No one matches your knowledge. Thank you. I make it up as I go along. Fake it till you make it. I learned. I'm just kidding. It used to be a lot easier to be up on top of college sports, right? Without all the movement and, the portals. And it's just so hard now. But we do the best we can, and this is where we get it. I have not. It's something we should probably start to look at. I mean, we try to do some baseball, and we do some baseball as we get into the springtime, right through the college baseball tournament, the College World Series. Hockey, I've never got into. It's funny, just like pros. I'm kind of a fair weather fan. When Union is really good up here in Schenectady, and Union won a national championship here, Little Union College in Schenectady. New York won a national championship here. I don't know, 10 years ago. And if the Frozen Four has been here in Albany, should probably get into it and cover it a little bit more, and maybe we will. I don't even know. What is the season going? The season's on right now, right? I'm guessing. Where's the Frozen Four this year? Let's find out when it goes through. Maybe we'll start doing that a little bit more. See where they're playing this year. It's in Vegas this year. April 9th and the 11th. Interesting. When did Union win their national championship? NCAA hockey champions. You know, there are times when I do follow it, Brian, but more often than not. Here we go. Let's see. When did they win? What? Oh, this is something different. That's guys who have won championships in field hockey. Who the hell put that in? Don't say anything bad about them. I'll get myself in trouble again. Here we go. When did Union win? Back in 2014, Rick Bennett was the coach. It won 7-4 from Minnesota. Herb Brooks' old school. Union's had some really good hockey teams. They've been down a little bit recently. In fact, they haven't been as good since they fired Rick Bennett a few years ago. But I paid attention that postseason a lot. So maybe we'll get more into it. Portal and the NIL are actually going to make college hockey able to compete with big-time junior programs. Interesting. Listen, there's a lot of – listen, I just don't know. I don't know players. I know teams a little bit and who's playing well, right? I mean, we just had Dartmouth come through. We had Dartmouth come through and play Union and RPI. We had Harvard come in here and play RPI. RPI historically has had a really good hockey team too. I feel like they won a national championship way back. But I guess not. Maybe they were runner-up. Let me see. Did they ever? Maybe I'm wrong. Let's check it out. RPI. Nope. Looks like nothing. So they don't even have a runner-up. I thought they had a runner-up one year. I know they've made it far, but they haven't been really good in many, many, many years. Some great NHL players came out of RPI over the years in Union. March Madness. You can't call it. Oh, okay. When's the last time they played the Frozen Four here? Buffalo. Could have swore they played the Frozen Four here. Maybe it was Albany. Back in 2001, actually. I thought it was more recently than that. Boston College won that year over North Dakota. You get some interesting schools, too, that are really good in hockey. I like that, too. Kids in Canada are going to pick up are going to be picking a college in America instead of the juniors. I get you. That makes sense. That's a great point. I hadn't really thought about that, AC. They don't really have college. Well, they have colleges, obviously, in Canada, but I think you're right. The juniors have been more lucrative for these kids. And the American schools, the U.S. schools, will be stealing them. Good point. I hadn't even thought about that. Gotcha. There's Can. How are you, Can? Good to have you with us. Can from the Bottom Line Sports podcast. Good to have you with us tonight, Can, as we got about 10 minutes or less left. I got to make allowances for running the promo. I did run it today too, Brian, on both my pages, and put it in the stories and did a reel and trying to do some stuff to keep up with the times. You know what I'm saying? Get with the kids. It is almost NC. I've had projections for the last hour and a half, dude. Just kidding. I just went through. It's like I think there's 17 teams, quite frankly, that have a chance to win a national championship. I think it's the most wide open tournament potentially we've ever had. I think all the top seeds have got a chance. I could find a reason they won't make it to the Final Four or all the way to the championship, let's say. At this time of year, historically, I like to find a team that I think has got some value but a chance to win. My money right now, I wanted to put a bet on St. John's, but on the betting apps, you cannot make a bet on a team in New York State, so I couldn't bet St. John's. I put my money on Gonzaga and Mark Few to come from the outside and win. That does not mean they're necessarily going to win. There's some really good teams. Michigan's good. Duke is good. Arizona's good. Got some problems shooting the basketball. But we go all the way to Kansas. Yeah, I got 17 teams with a chance to win this whole thing. I think it's going to be wide open. It's going to be one of the most fun tournaments ever. And I think there are teams, we talked about teams like Austin P and High Point who are on big winning streaks and could win a couple of games in the NCAA tournament. Miami of Ohio, 28-0, great story. I think them getting to the tournament undefeated would be a tremendous story. And the NCAA wouldn't be able to screw them either. We see how it goes. We talked about the combine. And we're going to be talking a lot of draft in these coming weeks as well, as that is college still. Mendoza's at the combine. We talked about the combine starting to lose its relevancy. I don't know what your guys' thoughts are on it, but I know Brian's thoughts. The top quarterbacks and wide receivers don't throw. They wait for their own pro days. Mendoza's not going to throw. I do think he'll go first unless the Raiders decide to trade out of there, but he's not a sure thing. And if they think he's not a sure thing, then they may trade out of there. He's not going to throw at the combine. He's going to wait for, I think it's April 1st is his pro day at Indiana. He wants to be able to throw with his own receivers, I think for his own familiarity with them and also to spotlight them a little bit, according to his own comments. So. Well, listen, we're going to have our March. The next few weeks is all about March Madness, right? So we're going to be talking. You've heard a little bit about what I talked about the last hour or so, bud, and we'll be talking a lot about it next. We'll be talking about it on the Sunday Stream of Consciousness. We'll be talking about it on this show for the next few weeks. We'll be getting started with the conference tournaments next week. We already ran down some of them that start early. The big conferences will start after a week later. Some of them, but we'll be doing comprehensive coverage of the top conference tournaments, and we'll start narrowing down our picks. And we will do a March Madness pool as well. So hope you and Flo will get in. I'll get that up as soon as we know that there's a. I don't know. Maybe I can start it now. I don't even know, and get more guys in. But if you guys want to share it on your page, I'd love to get 40 or 50 people in it and have some fun. Virginia's a good pick. Virginia's one of those teams that's on a roll right now. Won 9 straight, playing really good. Finally getting their footing. Struggled a bit since Tony Bennett surprisingly stepped away a few years ago. But they played well. I like that team. Houston, I think it's just a bump in the road. I mean, they lost 3 straight for the first time in I think 3 or 4 years. I did not like the way this offense played. They still play good defense. Kansas defense, though, shut this team down just the other night, either last night or the night before. I don't remember which night it was. But we'll see how that goes. I know you'll be in, Brian. We'll have some fun with the pool. And I'll take a look, see if we can get up early and get started promoting it. I don't know if you can really start them even before the tournament's filled out, though. Which will be just a few weeks away, March 15th, Selection Sunday. Then you got to fill them out quick, though, because I think we can fill out the tournament before then. We'll try to do it. I'll look at something here the next couple of days and get something posted to the site. We'll do it. Historically we've done a women's pool and a men's pool, and we'll try to do something the same way, if you like. And by the way, speaking of the women, I have not given them proper coverage here tonight. I usually at least give the rankings. UConn and UCLA and South Carolina. No surprise. Those are the teams sitting at the top of the polls there, and we'll be the favorites going into the tournament. It is good fun, my friend. Good to have you with us. Great run. Great run. Hey, it seems like there's always going to be a Cinderella. It feels like, right? I've got a couple, What if Miami and Ohio gets in this? We don't know how good they are because nobody will play them. I've said this a couple times now. 28-0. 28-0 is 28-0. I don't care what league you're playing in. It's still pretty good. We saw Rutgers 40 years ago, 1976, come out of the East. Undefeated. They got to the tournament. Nobody thought they were that good. Phil Sellers led that team. They made it all the way to the Final Four. Nobody thought they were that good. They were ranked high, but people, there was no Big East then. They were just playing. They were an independent. They're playing the ECACs, not existent real league. So we've had teams come from nowhere that were like Miami. They're not ranked as high as Rutgers got that year, but Rutgers made it all the way to the Final Four. They got beat by UCLA. No, they lost to UCLA in the semifinals. I think they got beat by Michigan in the Final Four. There's Chris F. Grave, who's going to be putting these intros together here pretty soon. We got to wrap it up quick, but we'll say happy birthday to Hoot Haynes. Came out of the Colgate program. He'd be, 126. That'd be some kind of record if he was alive. For the record, I plan on living till I'm 126. So, all right, guys, we're going to wrap it up with that. And we'll give you again, check out all the shows on the McGrath Podcast Network. Brian's done a great job of putting together shows, and those hosts have done a great job, and I'm happy to participate on our roundtable shows as well. And you'll see the schedule coming up here in just a little bit. And you can always check it out. I'll be rerunning that promo a few times on my pages as well. So, guys, have a great night. It's been fun. You guys, bye-bye.